Hey Movement, we know there's been so much happening in our state and in our county in regard to COVID-19, and so we wanted to give you an update on where we're at as a church and what it's going to look like for us moving forward. But before we get into that, I want to take a moment to just say that we recognize the sovereignty of God. We recognize that God can use something bad and he can utilize it for good. And so before we skip over all of the amazing things that God's been doing here at Movement Church and get on to what's happening next, we want to take a moment to be grateful for the way that God has been moving, because he's been doing some incredible things over the last 2 months here at Movement Church that we wanted to talk a little bit more about. So Holly, can you share more about what God has been doing over the past few months here at Movement?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind was the Easter trilogy.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just something that was so amazing that we wouldn't have had the opportunity to go fully virtual online. And through that, we saw so many people engage with faith and the story of Jesus in a new and creative way that maybe they never would have if it wouldn't have been for this season of being online.
Mm-hmm. The Easter trilogy. Man, another thing, the 24/7 challenge. Man, it's been amazing to see God at work. We had over 80 people sign up to be a part of that. And what that means is really taking faith from being 1 hour in a weekend to saying, I'm going to commit myself to being with Jesus for 24 minutes every single day. That's really what it means to pursue God. And so I don't want to skip over that, because it's awesome to be able to hear the stories of people who have grown in their faith because of the 24/7 challenge. Give us one other thing. What else you got?
The biggest one in my mind was that we've been able to see 3 salvations over the last 8 weeks.
That's awesome.
That a church that's a church plant that's been meeting online and that hasn't even had our grand opening yet. To see 3 salvations is like a blessing from God and a reminder of his sovereignty in this season.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I want to say our opportunity to be able to bless Mayo Hospital and to be able to bless the doctors and nurses who are there to be able to make sure that we could get them breakfast. That's amazing. To talk about Movement home churches. We did home churches for our very first week at the beginning of all of this. And so to be able to talk about all those amazing ways that God has been working, that we know that, man, this is an absolutely such a difficult season for a lot of people, but we know that God can still utilize those things and be able to bring about glory for himself. And so really that leads us to where we're at right now for Movement Church. And I want to be able to give you an understanding of the lens that we're viewing things through. And really there are 3 different things that we're looking at as we move forward as a church. The first one is this, and I think it's the most important thing, is to say that we want to listen to what God is asking us to do and move in that direction. Here's what I know. It's that throughout this entire pandemic at Movement Churches, God has been doing things that I know that we're not good enough. You know, like I know that it's not our good leadership, but it has been God moving through the leadership here at Movement to be able to see people come to know him in a greater way.
Yeah.
And so we want to continue to lean into that. As a matter of fact, it's not just Holly and I as lead pastors making that decision, but we came to our leadership team and we gave them the book of Acts and we said, listen, if you had the book of Acts, what would the church look like? And we talked about that with them. And so we're excited for what God has for us in the future as we listen to what he has in store for us. And so I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. I think that over the next couple of weeks, what we're going to be looking forward to is some Movement home churches launching. I'm super excited about that. But as we talk about listening, I want to ask you to tune in this weekend, because we're going to be talking about confessions during a pandemic. And in the confessions during a pandemic, Holly and I, we're going to be talking about some of the things that God has been teaching us individually and how we believe that's applying to our church as a whole. And so we're going to share more about what we believe God is leading us into, but know that that's the first lens that we're viewing things through, is to listen to what God is leading us to do. What's the second thing?
The second lens is the lens of love. That we know that in this season, it's been a really hard season for everybody involved, and especially our community. And we understand that. And we want to recognize that this season is an opportunity for the church to show love. Within the walls and outside the walls of the church. Within the walls, that looks like we're not going to open when it's not safe for people. That we really want to take into consideration people that are immunocompromised or people that have weakened immune systems. That we want to make sure that we're approaching this conversation out of a conversation of love, not out of just what feels right in the moment.
Yeah. And the last one is this, that we want to ask, what's legal? That we believe that we're supposed to submit to the authorities above us to the best that we can. And so we're going to come and we're going to have that conversation. And so as we talk about what it looks like for movement moving forward, there are things that we believe God is putting into place that we're excited to be able to share with you, and that we believe this. We believe, and I'm going to spoil a little bit from this weekend. Is that all right?
Oh, that's okay.
I believe that it's during seasons like this that we can either try to preserve what was, or we can move into how God is purifying what he's calling us to in the future.
Wow.
And so I think that it's so important for us to not simply say, well, we want what was. As we talk about life as unusual, it's not like we want to go back to church as usual, but we want to move forward into church as unusual. We want to see the Spirit move in new ways. We want to see people equipped in new ways. We want to see our community served in new ways. And in order to be able to see that happen, it's about us listening and loving and asking, is it legal? And so as we kind of move forward into that, we want to encourage you and let you know that we are thinking about this. We're praying through this. We would encourage you to pray along with us. Maybe even look at the book of Acts and ask yourself the question, if you had the book of Acts alone, what would the church look like? What would it look like for you to be a part of what God was doing? And that's the lens that we want to view things through. So listen, we're going to have more information for you as we move forward in the next few weeks. Make sure you tune in this weekend as we talk about confessions during a pandemic, but know that we are continuing to seek God in this, that we're continuing to seek wise counsel, and that we are moving forward believing that the best is yet to come. We love you, Movement Church, and we can't wait to be able to see all that God has in store for us in the future, of how we can continue to lead people to experience the life-transforming power of Jesus. So grateful and can't wait to see all that God has in store.